And we talked about the world's biggest devil, or we can say the dark web's biggest snuff, Lord Josef Fritzl. And in that video, I said one thing. At this point, I want the world to end. Everyone should die. I mean, the world should end. I am not even joking. I am not even aggravating. I am not even talking about the video. I really want this to happen because the video that I'm going to tell you about, or the videos that I am going to tell you about, if it is real, then I think humanity has ended, and it is better that the world ends. I said this because I felt that if such people exist in the world, then the world is going in a very bad direction, going in a very wrong direction. But while searching for such cases and such stories, I came across a true video. It came to a crime case which sounds fictional but is real. This is the whole case which I'm going to talk about today. When the truth came out about it, the police staff thought it was a lie. The police staff felt as if someone was telling them the plot of a very bad horror movie. But when the evidence regarding this whole case started coming out slowly, the police, as well as the entire media, went into shock. Josef Fritzl was a name which was very respected in the society. Many people respected this name a lot. But the man behind this name was such that no one had any idea what was going on in that man's mind. Forget about the mind. No one even had any idea what was going on inside this man's house for the last so many years. Joseph was an old man who lived with his wife, whose name was Rosemary. And Joseph and Rosemary had 7 children in total, one of whom was Elizabeth. Elizabeth was not like the other children. Elizabeth and Joseph never got along. They used to fight all the time. The mood of the house was spoilt because of their fights. The real story started when Elizabeth left her house to join a cult. Elizabeth left her house one day at random to join a cult and had no idea where Elizabeth had gone. Rosemary was told this, but the truth was very dark. The story of Elizabeth running away from home was told to Rosemary by Joseph, but the truth was that Elizabeth did not run away. Elizabeth was under her own house. And by the way, in a secret chamber in an underground bunker. Joseph was always a person with a survivalist mindset, and he was very much interested in these underground bunkers and secret chambers, so much so that there was a cellar under Joseph's house, and Joseph had made a secret chamber under that cellar. You can call it a bomb shelter, or he had made a bunker, and in this bomb shelter, nobody knew about it. Nobody knew that there was a secret chamber under the cellar of the house. One day, Josef told Elizabeth that he was fixing a door in the cellar and needed help from another person. Josef asked Elizabeth for help, and Elizabeth said yes. When both of them were going down to the cellar, Josef quickly took out a cloth from his pocket, which was filled with ether, or we can say chloroform, and he picked up that cloth and put it on Elizabeth's mouth, and at the same time he held Elizabeth very tightly so that she could not move. Due to that cloth, Elizabeth fell unconscious due to whatever chemical was there, and when Elizabeth opened her eyes, she was locked inside a secret chamber, which was under the same house. There were many rooms in the cellar under the house. In one of those rooms, there was a bookshelf. When you moved that bookshelf to the side, there was a passage behind it to the secret chamber where Josef had imprisoned Elizabeth. There was no air coming from anywhere in that underground bunker or secret chamber. There was no ventilation inside it at all, and there was no trace of sunlight because it was an underground bunker. The rooms inside that underground bunker were very small. The ceiling height was up to 6 feet maximum. That chamber was very small, but still there were many rooms inside it, according to which 2-3 people could stay there. There were small rooms inside that chamber, like 2 small bedrooms, 1 living area, and 1 storage area. The day Elizabeth disappeared, Rosemary Joseph first noticed that Elizabeth was missing, and then he started asking questions to Joseph that where did Elizabeth go? Elizabeth is nowhere to be seen. Where did she go? And at that time, Joseph replied to Rosemary that Elizabeth has run away from home, and Elizabeth joined some cult, and she will never return. Joseph used to secretly take food and water to that chamber so that he can give food and water to Elizabeth. And after a few days, Joseph decided that he will probably never let Elizabeth go out of this chamber. Now comes the really dark part. Joseph did not just keep Elizabeth hidden. Along with this, Joseph also used to abuse Elizabeth. Joseph kept on sexually assaulting her for 4 to 5 years. Elizabeth had been sexually assaulted so many times that at one point she became pregnant, and after that, Elizabeth delivered that baby in that very chamber. Inside that very chamber, she gave birth and started raising the kid. That child was growing inside that very chamber, and within a year of the birth of that first child, Elizabeth became pregnant again and delivered another baby. So now, after this, Elizabeth was raising 2 children in the same chamber, which had no light or proper ventilation, and those children had no idea that there was a world outside that secret chamber. And soon after, Elizabeth delivered the 3rd baby, but Joseph took the 3rd baby with him outside the chamber. After taking him outside the chamber, Joseph put that little baby in a box and left him outside the door of his own house. Later, Joseph told Rosemary that he found this baby outside the house, and he feels that Elizabeth became pregnant after joining the cult. According to the story which was told to Rosemary earlier, when Elizabeth joined the cult, she got pregnant there, and the baby Elizabeth aborted her own baby, and that baby was Joseph and Rosemary's. Joseph left his son at home so that Joseph and Rosemary could raise the child. Surprisingly, Rosemary agreed to this and started raising the child like her own. The never stopped Joseph never stopped himself, due to which Joseph and Elizabeth had a total of 7 children, out of which 1 child died during birth. So, in total, 6 children were alive, out of which 3 children were in the chamber below, and the remaining 3 were above ground with Rosemary. So, at the same time, 3 children were growing below in the chamber where there was no air, no water, and no light, and at the same time, 3 more children were growing normally above ground with Rosemary. Every time Joseph used to do this, as soon as a new child was born, he would put that child in a box and leave it outside his door, and later he would tell Rosemary this story that this child is also Elizabeth's. Same story. With Rosemary, she was raising 3 children whom she believed were Elizabeth's. One of the 3 children growing up in the chamber below was Christy, who was 19 years old and had not come out of the chamber for 19 years. One day, Christine fell very sick inside the chamber, so sick that Elizabeth had to beg Joseph to take Christine to the hospital. Elizabeth had to beg Joseph every time inside the chamber to get her treated. And one day, Joseph agreed to Elizabeth's request, and he took Christine to the hospital. When the hospital staff saw Christine, they felt as if they were looking at a ghost. She was white as snow, and the girl had a severe deficiency of vitamin D because she had never seen the sun. Christine's health was very bad, and the doctors had to, when Kristen was to be treated, it was important to find out what Kristen's biological history was and who her parents were. The doctors asked Joseph these questions. Joseph repeated the same story that Kristen's mother had left home to join a cult when she was 18 years old, and when Kristen was born, Elizabeth, Joseph's daughter, left Kristen at Joseph's doorstep. So when this story was told, the doctors had a medical report in their hands that showed severe deficiency of vitamin D, and they understood that something was wrong, and Joseph's story was not matching. The doctors started getting suspicious, but to save Kristen, it was important to find her mother. So the doctors in the hospital gave this information directly. The thing became so big that one day it was reported in the media that Kristen's photo was put up. And it was being said that Elizabeth, the mother of this girl, was also there. Along with this, Elizabeth's photo was also there that if Elizabeth is seeing this news, please come to the hospital, or if anyone has seen Elizabeth, then he should report to the police. Now here the story takes a little twist because in the chamber where Josef had locked Elizabeth and the other children, surprisingly Josef had installed a TV in which a news channel was running one day, and Elizabeth saw her own news where the whole world outside the chamber was searching for her so that Kristen could be treated. As soon as Elizabeth saw the news, she started begging Josef to please take her to the hospital because her daughter's life will be saved. Surprisingly, Josef agreed, but he put a condition in front of Elizabeth. He put this condition that after reaching the hospital, Elizabeth has to tell everyone the story that she has run away from a cult and that she has come to the hospital. A long time ago, at the age of 18, she left her home to join a cult. Elizabeth agreed to this condition, and Josef took Elizabeth to the hospital. There were all the doctors and policemen in the hospital, and they immediately arrested Elizabeth. The policemen arrested Elizabeth because they thought that the girl had kidnapped her children. But when they went to the private room and talked to the policeman, Elizabeth told the truth. It is so unbelievable that Josef is living in Austria, far away from his entire family, in a jail. Now I come to the main point. You would be wondering, where is he now? A court in Austria has ruled that the country's most notorious criminal, Josef Fritzl, can be moved to a normal prison. Fritzl, who has since changed his name, kept his daughter captive for 24 years in a dungeon he built beneath his home and fathered 7 children with her. He has been held in an institution for mentally disturbed prisoners since 2009 after his conviction for rape, enslavement, incest, and murder by neglect of his newborn son. The statement from the court in Krems an der Donau said Fritzl, 89, no longer posed a danger that required him to be kept in a prison psychiatric unit. It said that due to his progressive dementia and physical frailty, he was no longer likely to commit a criminal offense with serious consequences. In theory, the transfer to normal prison could pave the way for his eventual release. His lawyer, Astrid Wagner, has said she would apply for this a year after his transfer. However, the court statement said a release or a conditional release from prison would not be possible for special preventative reasons. Do you think justice got served? There were many psychologists who studied this entire case, and all of them said one thing, that Josef's entire plan was to build a bunker under the house. As soon as Elizabeth turns 18, kidnap her and keep her hidden from the whole world, and then to have children. All this did not happen just like that. Josef was probably planning all these things ever since Elizabeth was a little girl. And I think this makes sense because Josef was busy constructing those bunkers and that secret chamber for so long because he was planning everything. And the amazing thing is that Josef had tried to make this planning so perfect that he knew that even if he was going out of the house for 10 to 15 days, no one would be able to find that chamber downstairs. And that is why Josef used to take a lot of trips in between, going to different places for 15 to 15 days, leaving the whole house and the whole chamber behind. Josef was doing all this inside the house, but was also enjoying by going on holidays outside and looking at those video clips, and it seems that Josef did not have even 1% guilt in this whole case. Before I go to the timeline, I want to ask you a question. Okay, think carefully. Do you really think that Rosemary, Joseph's wife, had no evolution in this case? Do you really believe the fact that Rosemary had no idea of what Josef was doing all this time? Rosemary quietly started raising all the children who came outside her door. Don't you think Rosemary was somehow involved with Josef? What do you think? Tell me in comments. Kindly subscribe my channel for more creepy videos.